Hey everybody, it's Steve at 1000 Year Homes. Welcome aboard. So today's episode, I'm going to talk about how to strip paint from things that are probably over 100 years old. So I love taking old things and remaking them into something new. One, they've proven the test of time, right? So if they're still look good after 100 years, I'm expecting them to last 1,000 years. Here at 1000 Year Home, that's what I'm trying to do. Build a house that'll last 1,000 years. Let me show you what I'm after. Rotate. All right. Well, this is a horse ox or a horse yoke that I'm going to provision for this bell. So there you get the vision, right? So I'm going to turn this into a gate, a main gate with a mission bell accent. I have to rebuild the bell. It's missing some components. I'm considering this star here. But this thing, and I'll put up a before, was loaded with paint, like layers and layers. If it's over 100 years old, and I have got it looking so good now. When I stain the log, I'm going to stain and preserve this horse yoke. So this horse yoke said it was from Tamarack Ridge, which is in Idaho. Right now we're looking at Central Texas. But I have got this looking really, really nice, all things considered, including the blacksmithing on the rings and, the components. So you can see, and I have the other yoke too. I'm finishing it up today. But looky there, how nice that will be. And then once I'm done staining them to match, I'll go ahead and put wood preservative on this. So the oak won't get to the cedar will keep the termites from getting to this oak. So I feel real good, but all of it will get a coat. So without further ado, let me just dive into how I stripped the paint off of this thing. It took me 2 days, but not like 24 hours a day. I put the stuff on, I let it cure inside of a bag, and then, 24 hours later, I scraped it off. Then I let that cure, and then 24 hours later, I went over it with a wire wheel. Looks really good. Now, those of you who are doing paint restoration and old stuff, always consider you might be dealing with lead. So use your gloves, use your respirators, protect your health. I used out here, look, I'm way out here in the middle of nowhere. So I made sure the wind was blowing to my advantage. Everything that I'm showing you outside, just consider if you're doing the same thing inside, maybe reconsider, get some ventilation. Also, just so you know, I did have a heat gun, and I could also have used a heat gun instead of a chemical stripper. 2 things I've learned about that. Sometimes when it's super thick, all you do is make the paint gooey, and it gets down into the pores, and you make your end state worse. Secondly, if I'm dealing with lead paint or toxic paint, I'm just going to create a bigger problem than if I chemically stripped it first, bagged it, and then went over the last part with, 15% of paint remaining, right? So anyway, keep those things in mind, but here's the rest of the video. Enjoy. If you like to restore stuff, like, subscribe, follow me along. It seems to be all that I do. Well, another wicked hot and wicked windy day here. It's springtime in Texas, and I'll tell you, feels like July, August. My stock ponds are going down. First year ever. I'm worried about watering these 2 horses. I'm running low. But what's the project today? Well, I am working on a lot of different things. Just got done fixing the road while it's dry, hot and dry. I figure might as well patch roads. And now I'm going to work on a mission bell. What I've done here underneath that black bag is an old ox or horse yoke. It's 2 pieces that I'm going to be using on a mission bell. Now it's painted in multiple layers, and several of those layers said Tamarack Ridge. But I've decided to harmonize. I'm going to try to get down to, I'm going to guess, the oak underneath there. And so what I did earlier today, and I like this citrus sal real well, I went ahead and used this citrus sal stripper. It's not as stinky as the old stuff is. It's less toxic. And but I don't know if this thing's painted in lead. It would be old enough to be painted in lead, right? So what I'll do is I'll scrape it out into the wheelbarrow. I'll let it dry out. I'll bag it up and throw it away. I put this on about 4 hours ago. You can start stripping within a half hour, but you could also leave it overnight if you're not getting through. So I got enough in here that I can coat it one more time and leave it on overnight in these bags, these plastic bags. I've got the 11-in-1 stripper, scraper to do that. And then just, you know, junk, I've got junk gloves and I've got junk, you know, nothing fancy brushes that I use to paint it on. So, well, it got in there, didn't it? Got in there. Alright, I'm down to the oak. Alright, and I'm going to save these bags and reuse them. There's no reason not to. Once I get it down far enough and it dries, I'll go ahead and hit it with a wire wheel. And then light sanding hither and yon. Now you can save the scraped citrusal and use it again a second or third time, as long as it's liquid. But because this might be lead, I doubt it, but it's of the right age, I'm just going to go ahead and bag that up. Just assume it's not safe for me to repurpose it by stripping a toy or you know, something that people might touch. This will be a ship bell, which will be 10 feet in the air. Mission bell for the farm. Well, paint stripping is kind of like therapy for the soul. It's hard work, and I don't know if you heard me say, because the wind pop was so bad working outside here, but it's safer for me, right, to work outside this way. But I had actually painted that citrusal stripper on there the night before and bagged it, and then let it cure so that I could get through all of those layers, 15 layers of paint or more, I guess. Lots of colors I ended up hitting. You couldn't just sand it because it would gum up your sandpaper, nor could you just use a heat gun on it because it'd get too gooey. So in this particular case, the citrus stripper I would have needed to use anyway. Earlier I showed you that 15-in-1 scraper tool. That tool is excellent in that it has curves and sharps and little things to get in nooks and crannies. I buy them all the time and wear the heck out of them. They're kind of the thing I keep in many places. So I actually was able to get one of those to come loose, the yoke itself. They had been painted shut, and just through the mere process of stripping that one, it came right out. Now the other one, I'll get it out before the end of this deal, but it didn't come out during this process. It took me a little more. So I use all the different edges of the paint scraper, but I found if I just scrape it back and forth, I also have a triangular one that fits on a handle that you can just scrape. That works really well as for this kind of stuff too. But this one had the curves in it that matched all the curves on the yoke. It was hard for me to get the paint off the iron. I did it a little bit, but it was certainly really good on the old paint. Hopefully none of this is lead, but again, I'm not breathing it. It's not friable right now. I get most of it off through this process. That's just a lot safer. You see I use the wheelbarrow as a work bucket. Super convenient. It's the right height as a table, but also all the junk just gets thrown in there so that I'm not trying to wipe it off, trying to keep myself safe, trying not to get it all over the place. Earlier in the video, you might have caught that those gloves gave up. They just did not have the oomph. So when I said junk gloves, I'm not even going to put or recommend whatever I bought were trash. But there you go. I got that yoke looking pretty good now. Well, an hour's worth of hard work and 8, 10, 12, 50 layers of paint later, mostly gray, but I went through some pink, Pepto-Bismol pink. That was lovely. I went through red, and I went through green, I went through brown, I went through a lot of colors. So that's been around a while. Let's take a look at it. All right, as I suspected, I'm seeing oak in there. That's what I'm seeing. So right now it's a raw face. I will let it set tonight, and then I'll come back in tomorrow with a brass wire wheel. Now I'm not doing fine furniture here, so I'm not worried about a little wheel scoring. In fact, scraped timber is what I'm after, and it'll look like that even more. You can see a little bit of that brown still in there and a little bit of the pink still in there. But I think that I got it I'm going to say 75% of the way. Now, when I do the wire wheel, I don't want little bits of this liquid stripper coming up in my eyes, right? So I'll wait for that, but I'll try to get down to bare metal on these. In addition, one of these came loose out of there, and that's really good news because I needed to rotate it for the bell. So I was able to rotate that yoke and get that in there. So you can see the way it is right now, you can envision a bell underneath it, right? And but I'll get that back to wood, raw wood, and then I'll stain it and the post that I'm using. I'll stain those anyway. I'll stain this and the post I'm using at the same time. And that ought to be a really nice combination. Well, it's the next day of me reclaiming the horse yoke that had, I don't know, 15 layers of paint on it, probably 100+ years old, from Tamarack Ridge, Idaho, all the way down to Texas, Smithville, Texas. So who knows how that happened, right? Who knows? Normally people went east to west during pioneer days, but this yoke went north to south, probably along the I-35 corridor. I'm going to guess, maybe. We'll see. So yesterday's audio was, better, but there's no fix for this high wind. I'll apologize ahead of time. What I usually do is just delete around it when it's can't be heard. Otherwise, please just bear with me. I work outside. It is what it is. But today I'm going to put on the wire wheel on the angle grinder. I've also got a couple of sanding pads for the angle grinder. We're just going to pick up where I left off and take a look at this. So, all right, I let that dry overnight and I'm happy with it. Now I'm going to go ahead and get everything around. In addition to the angle grinder, I also have, oh, look at that, and went right in the goo. Oh, gun it. All because I had to move the frickin' wheelbarrow. Man, that's annoying. Can't tell you how annoying that is. Once you get goo in a sanding pad that thin, I'm going to leave that one dry. Anyway, I have a little belt sander for chasing around these things if needed, but I won't be able to use it right away. As you can see, the bottom of this thing's still filled with goo. Let me go ahead and get on. I'm going to put on a wire wheel to begin with. But then I have a sanding disc if I need it, a carving disc actually, and another wire wheel if that one wears out. I have some flap disc. Oh man, they all ended up in the goo too. Oh my gosh. The fates will conspire against you. So anyway, I've got one already out that's worn. Keep the worn ones, they're actually useful. So I'll let that dry out. Alright, y'all can see that using a wheelbarrow for a catch is a good thing. All that would have been on the ground and my chickens would have been pecking at it, and that would have been a problem. Let's go ahead and change out the flap wheel here. Oh shit. Well, you could see that now I could see the blacksmithing on that. So this was blacksmithed. I really like it. So I won't paint over that. I'll use some kind of a rust treatment, surface rust treatment, so it can be up there. I really like that very much. Let me hit this here and see how it works with the oak yoke. Man, that's hard to say. All right, I'm hid under the shade a little bit. I'm going to wheelbarrow that out and we'll look at it in full sun. There's some really cool things that came to light after I hit it with that wire wheel. So I only did a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then a little bit of the steel. So we'll look at what I've only done a little bit of this. Well, there it is in full sun. Obviously, I won't continue to work out here in the sun, but let's do this for the video's sake. First off, let's take a look at the iron that I hit with the wire wheel. I almost think that there's some stamped maker's marks in there, but I don't think they're going to come up. But this side looks really good. You can see it's blacksmith. The whole ring is a blacksmith ring. There it is. I wasn't able to strip the paint off. I shot that in real time. It was probably 5 minutes. But one thing that comes forward is, look, they use wooden shims to secure and anchor the metal in. So that's the way they closed the gap on that. So they hammered in metal there. And then when I looked, I saw that the metal, the shims, the wooden shims are also, or were also, in here. And one flew out while I was working. But they used shims in there, which I guess I lost while I was working. That'll be okay because I'm going to end up using screws on this on top. So, and then I'll hit that. One thing I would like to note for anybody doing the same work using a wire wheel, I'm not wearing a respirator. So this is outdoors, and I'm real mindful of what direction the wind is going because I don't want to breathe any of this. It could be lead-based. If I was doing this in a closed environment and I didn't have a strong wind, I for sure would have a respirator on. Airborne lead is the real deal. All right, so apologies for the shadow it'll be thrown on there. All right, so boy, that cleaned that up real good. So there's that side. Here's where I didn't do it yet. You know, the back side will show it too. You know, really shows that the wire wheel is getting in there. In addition, it's not adding any kind of damage to the surface that's not already there. You can see the axe hewn marks where they carved this out originally. So any scraper marks that I put in there or gouges I put in there, just add. They're vanishing. But one thing I want to point out is these little circular divots that show up inside of the yoke. What that's going to be is where the chains got tangled on the horse's neck and they pulled and then the chains bit into the yoke. If you ever read Little House on the Prairie, Paws only used chains for his horses, and that way thieves couldn't sneak up and cut the leather and steal his horses if he was stepped away for a minute for lunch or whatever, or sleeping at night. So anyway, there's where the chains were on that, and I can really feel them when I do that. I could feel the divots of the chains. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. So based on it all being blacksmith, this is, you know, it was several layers said Tamarack Ridge, Mount Tamarack, so I know it came from Idaho. Here it is in Texas. I'm saying oak. I think I'm right with oak. I think these were oak too. Somebody else might disagree with me and say maybe ash or something like that. Maybe. But based on how long it's lasted and how rugged it is, I'm going to say it's oak. So I have the rest of this to hit with that wire wheel. I'm going to stand downwind. I'll put you on stop motion while I do that because I'll be moving around while I do that to stay downwind of the dust. I don't want the dust. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to getting this around where I can stain it. It doesn't have to be perfect. A little bit of, you know, patina in there and a little bit is fine by me. And I think it'll stain out really, really nice. All right, I'm going to put you back under the sun while I do some stop motion. All right, so there we go. I'm all done. I washed my hands and my legs. I'm going to get rid of this shirt. I don't think that it could have been lead paint, but I stripped most of it. I stood downwind. Listen, I agree with anybody who says I should have wore my respirator, but I'm dealing with a 92-degree day. And in a respirator, I just wanted to get done. I didn't want to have to worry about what is it, where you overheat. I didn't want that. All right, but let's take a look here together. All right, well, this looks good enough. I'm not going to sand it any further. I, of course, see the same thing you do, a little bit of gray patina on it, but I like the patina. I am going to go ahead and stain this at the same time that I stain the post. You see it way back in there. So I got to wire wheel the post as well. That will be a project I'll do this afternoon. I'm on lunch break, so I got to get back to work. But all right, I am super happy. Another thing I'm happy over, this looks like if I had bent that, I could pull it out and hammer out the hanger for the yoke. So that's where the draw chains would have gone up to pull the plow or whatever. But I need the bell to mount here, right? So this thing will be like this, upside, you know, be like that, holding the bell underneath it. And if I could figure out or cut some slots in the existing bell hanger and reuse that, that would be the right thing. Even, I think, if it means cutting into here slightly, although I'm trying not to modify this very much at all other than some screws. I'm going to reuse the yokes and drill holes, I think, into the log that will match those holes to align it up. Again, I see a little bit. I might come back. It looks like I missed this spot right here entirely. So I might come back, do that spot. But again, I got to get back to work. I love the way this old blacksmithy stuff turned out. Oh man, that is just killer. So I won't bother you with the little bric-a-brac I'm going to do here. Now these tops that are broken, I ordered, and I believe it'll arrive today, wood hardener. So I'll put wood hardener in there, and then to keep the rain from raining on it, causing problems, I'm going to take and put epoxy on this. So I've wood putty, Bondo. What I thought is JB Weld might be my best choice. So I might do JB Weld, and then I'll take some sawdust and press it right into the JB Weld while I do the top. Basically, I want to keep the weather from continuing to check that until it breaks. It's obviously been upside down a few times before. This is the upside down. If you were a horse, it would be the other way around. So, you know, the horse heads would go through here, their necks, or mules. This doesn't look like it fit oxen, but I don't know, you know. I wasn't back then. Although I've lived in an area where the Amish still plowed. My grandfather still used horses, so I'm familiar with the concept. I myself have never plowed with horses. So, well, this feels like enough for me to do a complete video. I'm going to call it reclamation of a antique horse yoke. You know that I'm going to be using it for a mission bell bridle to hold the bridle for the bell. That's a good thing. But there you go. This is how I rough prepare old stuff. I don't want to breathe lead paint, so I use the stripper first. I strip it all down there, and then what's left over I let cure, and then and good ventilation with a good strong wind so it's not blowing on me. I go ahead and use a wire wheel on it. Lastly, I will do a little sanding here and there on it, not a lot, and then use wood hardener, fix the holes, do whatever you want to do. This is not fine furniture. This has rugged individuality. It's unique. It's the kind of stuff I dig. And if you dig this kind of stuff, like, subscribe, follow me along. All right. So thanks for watching. This is Steve, 1,000 Year House. So there you go. A restoration on layers and layers. 100 years of paint. How to do it without using a heat gun. There's a burn ban out here right now. I'm not allowed to use fire for anything, nor would I. There's wicked 10,000 acre fires just all around me. So anyway, it's calm right now, but it's been windy all day long. Like, subscribe. Thanks. Bye.